Here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. So the A League looks like they've survived for another couple of years or so. There was talks of them losing their Foxtel rights, which means Foxtel won't show any of their games, which probably could have been, most likely was the end of the A League. They've already been struggling. Like, they've lost a major sponsor, crowd figures have been down, and TV rights have been down. I think they're the lowest that they've ever been since they started. But they got Foxtel back, and the league's about to restart and finish after the whole COVID-19 lockdown. But I think the A League should use this as a learning curve. And I think the first thing they need to do is admit that the last 2 to 3 seasons wasn't very good. Quality-wise, attendance-wise, I think they just maybe need to not totally knock down and rebuild, but slightly rebuild. And then they need to kind of get rid of their attitude, their little chip on the shoulder. Yes, soccer's the world game, but it will never beat AFL, and it probably won't beat Rugby League, though Rugby League, maybe because they have bad leadership sometimes. Though Valendi seems okay. And they most likely won't beat cricket. I remember when they built a new stadium in Parramatta, which is a good stadium, the Wanderers had a sook saying they should be in the first team to play there because they made that stadium famous. Even though that stadium was built for a very famous rugby league team, because the Parramatta Eels, which won 3 in a row in the 80s. So, and when the Wanderers finally did get to play there, the commentator Simon Hill goes, "Oh, it's so good to finally have real football being played here," which just came across douchey. Sounded like a jealous schoolgirl. And then he had a sook, I think it was Simon Hill, he also had a sook about AFL and Rugby League getting more funding than soccer, saying it's the world game, they should be the number one priority of the government. No, it doesn't work like that. You got to build your way up. To be number one, you have to be the number one sport. And let's face it, football. Let's face it, football, you're never going to beat AFL. AFL is a religion, you know? Another thing, they should swallow their pride and play at smaller stadiums, especially now there's talks that they're going to move the A-League season to winter, which I wouldn't have done because if they play in summer, they don't really have much competition apart from cricket, you know? And a lot of football fans don't like cricket. Well, not a lot. There's a small portion of football fans who won't watch cricket. So, but all the experts are saying they should move it to winter to be in line with the other leagues. Fair enough. But if they do that, the thing is, Rugby League, I guess AFL, and Rugby Union, especially Rugby Union, it's a rough-footed game. They rip up the turf, and soccer needs to be played on smooth turf. And the A-League don't really have big crowds to justify playing in these massive stadiums like Suncorp. So I think maybe they should move to smaller stadiums, like maybe stadiums where they don't play football at all. I mean, they're smaller, but if you have a crowd of 8,000 people in Suncorp Stadium, it looks pathetic. But if you have 8,000 people in a 13,000-seater stadium, it doesn't look too bad, you know? Yeah. Another thing they need to do, and I know the coaches say they don't coach this. It's just when the game starts, the players kind of panic and they start doing it. That stupid tactic where they keep kicking the ball back to the goalkeeper. I've seen a team who were in the opponent's goal box and slowly kick the ball all the way back into their own halves to the goalkeeper, totally destroying any goal-scoring momentum or chances. Just got to get rid of that. Push forward. People want to see attacking football. None of this boring. It's boring. It's passing back to the keeper every 2 seconds is boring. I know when Alex Ferguson was in charge of Man United, he used to do coaching drills where players weren't allowed to kick backwards. They had to kick forward. Attacking football it's good football, you know? That's why people like the Premier League and the Spanish League, because it's attacking football. Italian League, not so much, but yeah, let's not mention the Italian League. Still more interesting than the A-League, but it's pretty boring. If you were a striker, you wouldn't want to go there. So they're talking about expansion. They need Another thing they need to do is these marquee players. They don't need these foreign marquee players. Half the time, people don't even know who these players are, and they're not even that good. They'd be like, "Oh, he played 5 seconds for Barcelona in a cup game in 2005. Oh, this guy went to the same school as Messi, and they were friends, and they kicked the ball together in the playground. Let's make him our major signing. Or this guy played in the 10th division in the Premier in the English League. Let's sign him and make him our highest paid player." No. I mean, if you get a big name player, that'd be great because that will get the crowds in. But let's face it, we're not gonna get a big name player that easily. And when we do, most of them don't stick around for long. But anyway, they're talking about expansion. Macarthur FC's got a team next year, which I don't know. I wouldn't have chosen that, but I'm probably going to support him. Campbelltown's not too far from my house, even though the Wanderers are kind of closer. But I'm a Blacktown FC fan. The same colours as Wanderers, so I should probably go for the Wanderers. But let's see how Sydney Macarthur FC will go. They got Tommy Orr, which is one of my favourite players. But they're talking about relegation. No, let's not do relegation. And they're talking about getting rid of the salary cap, but let's definitely not do that because Sydney FC and the two Melbourne teams, Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory, would just buy everyone. And it'd be like nearly every other soccer league in the world where only a handful of teams can win, Let's not do that. The good thing about the A-League is any team can win, except probably Wellington. They seem bad. But anyway, expansion. People are saying there's not enough. Now, I think they're on 11 teams, and they want to get to 16. So what's that? 12, 13, 14, 15. 5 more teams, roughly. People are saying that there's not enough talent to justify more teams. And maybe they're right, but I say the same thing about rugby union, where the more teams you have, the more opportunities there are for players. If teams start using young players, I mean, there's a lot of good players in the State League, which could maybe make a splash in the A-League if given a chance. You hear all the time these players are rejected from every single team except one when they play for that team and become a star. You hear that in all sporting codes. So more teams, more opportunity, more local juniors. And we can try to get some of the players, Australian players from overseas, back to Australia. Maybe make them the marquee players. I mean, that's the thing the A-League struggles with is whenever we get a good player, especially an Australian player, they as soon as they can, they leave and go overseas. Even just crappy clubs and crappy leagues because the money's better and they all have that dream of playing in the Champions League or the Premier League. But, can't really stop that. And I don't think we ever will. We're never going to have as much money as the Premier League or the Spanish League or whatever. But there we go. But here's my idea for a few more here's my ideas for some new teams, and I'm going to start off controversially. I'm going to say get rid of Wellington. They've been a sinking ship ever since the A-League started. They were called a different thing then. What were they? New Zealand Knights or something? I know they're playing okay football now. I think they were coming third before the season stopped and stuff. But no one's watching it. It's the A-League, Australian League, New Zealand. They don't have the supporters. They don't really have a stadium. And they haven't really achieved much. I'm sorry, Wellington, but maybe it's time to go. Come back in a few years when you get your shit together. It's like breaking up with someone who has a gambling or alcohol problem. So I still love you, but it's a bit messy at the moment. So my ideas for teams is 1, Canberra. I don't know how Canberra hasn't got a team yet. They're a city. Got a pretty big population and they're pretty far away from everything. And Canberra could have a rivalry with Macarthur FC. They got a stadium. They got a good stadium where the Canberra Raiders play. And they got the Institute of Sport, which they could use to recruit players or train players better. So that'd be my first choice. My other choice for a team is controversial as well. North Queensland Fury. Bring them back. Bring back the same emblem, same name, same jersey. This way, the old fans, and they didn't have many, but they did have fans, they could still come back, like in Weber old jerseys. Now the problem, like, I know they failed before, but they weren't really given a chance. Like, they give Wellington all these chances, but you get rid of the Queensland Fury. I mean, Gold Coast, yeah, get rid of that. That was messy. No team should ever be started up in the Gold Coast. But the Queensland Fury, their last stadium wasn't really in Townsville. It was on the outskirts. It was hard to get to, and it used to be the old Greyhound track or horse racing track or something. So you're pretty far away from the game. This new stadium's right in the middle of the city. Awesome views. It's built for rectangular sports. So give North Queensland Fury another go. Again, they're far away from everything. Yeah, and it gives Queensland another team, so they could have a rivalry with the Raw. So another team, which should already have a team, Hobart. Tasmania is always overlooked for sporting teams. They have a Big Bash team. That's about it. They should have an AFL team. They should have a NBL team. And they definitely should have an A-League team. They got a whole island of supporters, of people just wanting football, you know? So give them a chance. Hobart Huskies, that's the name of the basketball team. But I kind of like it. Huskies be a pretty cool emblem. Now that's ideas for 3 teams, and I say get rid of the Wanderers, get rid of the Wellington Phoenix. So that's another opinion. Number one, controversial because New South Wales already has a lot of teams. But the Wollongong Wolves, you know, Wollongong is another big city, not really near anything. They were a famous NSL club. They're still around in the state leagues. And so they don't have to, they will probably need to buy some new players to be competitive in the A-League, but they don't have to start from scratch. They have a team, maybe cut 5 of those players and bring in 5 good players and see how they go. I mean, like, it's a famous club. So, yeah. Another club. I like the idea of the Western United playing at Ballarat and the outer suburbs, outer cities of Melbourne. I think that's a great idea. Here's another city which is kind of far away from everything, which is crying out for a professional sport team, possibly, is Albury-Wodonga. There's not much to do there. I think they would really embrace a sporting team. Same with Tamworth. Tamworth is, I don't know if you'll call it a city. It's a large town in the middle of nowhere. They got their country music festival. So you can name the team after some type of country music, some type of music theme, you know. Kind of like the Utah Jazz, but don't call them the Jazz because there's no jazz in Tamworth that I know of. Sorry to any Tamworth Jazz players out there for some reason watching my channel. South Melbourne. I don't know if Melbourne could really support another team, but people are saying South Melbourne's totally different to the rest of Melbourne. And so if you give South Melbourne a team, it should be like a niche team. They can play at a really small stadium, so it's always sold out. And yeah, like maybe a 12,000 seat stadium or something. You know, that'd be pretty cool. Every game would feel like a sellout. And here's another interesting idea. Maybe I'm just biased because I live in Penrith. So Bathurst, which is on the other side of the mountains, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours from Penrith. It's on the other side of the Blue Mountains. Famous because they have the car race there. It's a large town, small city. They're not too far away, but they're far enough away to not want to go to see the Wanderers play or anything. I don't know if they have a football fan base there, but they might. It's a pretty working class town, so they might like sport. And Penrith Panthers, who one of the richest sporting clubs in Australia, they actually tried to buy the Wanderers and got knocked back. And apparently there was a team called Sydney Rovers, and they were going to play in Penrith. But Penrith Panthers can own the Bathurst Panthers. There's a stadium already in Bathurst, Carrington Park, which is a small stadium, so it doesn't take much to fill up. I think that could work, Bathurst Panthers, and they could people from Dubbo, people from Orange. You could even play in those cities as well. Look after the country, you know. The country is really struggling. Maybe they would like a spawn team. That's about it. 15 minutes. It's a bit long, this video. But A-League, where do we go? There's a few ideas. So there's 11 teams in the A-League. I had to get rid of the Wellington Phoenix. That makes 10. So the teams that I would have, Canberra 11, North Queensland Fury 12, Hobart 13, Wollongong Wolves 14, I don't know, South Melbourne 15, and Albury Wodonga, I don't know, I guess 16. I don't know, but I like the idea of Bathurst. But again, I'm biased because. But anyway, I'm Kieran Norton. Thanks for watching. It was a long video. Please subscribe. I've got a few other videos about all kinds of stuff. Rugby Union, AFL, Rugby League, video games. Thanks.